So we bought a nasty little house on a pretty abandoned, barren 2-acre lot because I had a dream of a home with more space to grow and play. I wanted orchard, I wanted fruit trees, I wanted gardens, swimming pool. We dreamt of sports courts and greenhouses and ponds and areas to ride four-wheelers and bikes and all that good stuff. And I have good news to report that over a decade in, everything I just said is a reality. Now, do I feel like it's finished? No, and I'm never going to feel like it's finished. But this is the playbook. This is the how-to. This is the best I can do for a quick instructional approach to how we went from funky house, cruddy yard to basically our dream. Now, I hesitate to say dream because there's still so much I want to do, so maybe we'll do some more updates later. And if you've been around the channel for long, you know that we do orchard tours and garden tours and fun backyard activities and all that stuff. But here's how my dream became a reality and how yours could too. So ours is a 2-acre lot. So let's imagine that this piece of paper is the top 75%. So I'm not going to show house and front yard, but let's just say right here is the edge of my swimming pool, okay? And none of this is going to be perfectly proportioned, but so our house sticks out, kind of wraps around the swimming pool like this. So you got a covered patio here, you got a bunch of patio here, this is the pool. And then pretty darn quickly you've got bocce pit right here for bocce ball, decomposed granite. And then we have our garden, which is kind of two big horseshoe beds. And then we have an archway here of grapes and blackberries and all that stuff. We've got some green grass here, greenhouse here. We have sport court over here. Okay, so let me just stop for a second and say, this is how these things came to be. When we bought the property, absolutely none of that was there. There was an old house with a similar shape built in the 60s that was in really rough shape. We renovated it, lived in that for 10 years. And then recently, in the last 3 years, tore that down and built a new house. Similar shape. We had put in a pool right before COVID, and man, was that timing awesome. And so we built a new thing around the house. This original garden was kind of a potager garden before I knew what that was. But I had built a bunch of different beds, like 6 beds of different shapes that generally had this general shape, just with grass around it. Over the years, the grass grew up, so we put in decomposed granite. Eventually, we put in pavers and simplified the shape to these 2 big horseshoes. We've always tried to maintain this as a grassy, usable area. The greenhouse came in probably 4 or 5 years into the whole process. And then probably 12, 13, 14 years ago, we just poured a big, boring concrete slab that later we had one of our real estate team sponsors and partners come in and stain the pickleball court shapes and all that in there. So we had boundaries, and we used a rollaway net there or a temporary volleyball net. The basketball hoop went in right when we poured the court. So all this has evolved over a very long time.
Like how many feet?
So the size of this guy, we get a lot of questions from YouTube folks on this. Initially, it was 50% of the size of a high school basketball court. So you could just Google that. It ended up having a little extra space over here. So it ended up being about 8 feet larger than half of a high school basketball court. Originally, it was basketball, 4 square, volleyball, nukem, stuff like this. We used to have a shed right here. And when we tore down the old house, we tore down the shed, but part of the footing was there, so we recaptured that, and that's why we turned it into a bocce pit. We just made use of the concrete, added decomposed granite, put in a little bit of drainage. So all of these things have evolved over time based on what's needed, including this big berm. So this is kind of a big dirt hill because we had drainage issues of water coming this way and not flooding, but some flooding in the house and just some water retention here, drainage, big puddles that we didn't want. So we put in this big berm. Now the water that comes this way banks and goes this way into a drainage ditch that runs not the far west perimeter of our property because there's a dirt road and a bunch of crepe myrtles over here, but basically the west side. We keep this area right here as kind of a sport area, football, soccer, flag football. We take the volleyball net out there sometimes, capture the flag, that kind of stuff. Wiffle ball, home run derby for sure.
Hey, real quick, we're talking about how to design your dream backyard and how I did it. And I think about this in zones. And we have a guide for how you can lay out your backyard below the video. Get it totally free right now. Share it with your friends.
This area over here, and this is not to scale, but this is the orchard. So this is kind of my baby. I love the garden. I like the garden a lot. I love the orchard. So I spend a lot of time out here. So initially we did 7 times 3 rows. So we had 21 tree spots. Over time, that's turned into more like 27, but that's basically the orchard. We also have added some fig trees, 5 of those, and then crepe myrtles in between. And we started planting berry bushes and things underneath. But all these trees are apple, pear, plum, peach, pomegranate, persimmon, jujube, and all sorts of other really fun stuff with blackberries and raspberries underneath, herbs, dynamic accumulators, nitrogen fixing sort of basically fertilizer plants, as well as in some of the sunny areas or some of the shady areas. We've got some bean plants. We have some cowpeas or black-eyed peas in there. We have lots of zinnias just for pollinators and pretty flowers popping up all in there. Sometimes it's beautiful, sometimes it looks a little bit messy, but it's because we're trying to pack in all the growth we can. We have some elderberry in there and all sorts of other stuff. We have a couple of big berry bushes that kind of grow out in these areas. My favorite apple trees are kind of back here. So all that to say, this is a very busy, very productive, very fun area for me. We have a big trellis right here. It's intended to hold hardy kiwi someday. Right now we have muscadine back there. That trellis failed 3 times. 3 times we tried to put hardy kiwi on it and it just didn't work. So it's evolved right now to more muscadine. We have some watermelon growing underneath there. We do have some black beans, some pinto beans, some black-eyed peas, and a couple other vining fruiting bushes like watermelon. We tried a little bit of cucumber and stuff in there.
Did you prep the soil in any way before you started planting?
So here we started with just raised bed gardens, and we brought in compost and decent topsoil. We've mulched it every single year for well over a decade. So that's broken down into really, really, really good soil. Here in the orchard area, we have added 6 inches or more of mulch 4 or 5 times over the last 12 or 13 years. But we started in the cruddy black clay that God gave us and this abandoned, beat down property gave us. So that soil quality has gotten better and better and better and better over the years. As those wood chips that we're just getting from tree services break down and the worms come in and we get all the mycorrhizal fungi under the soil. I've never really added any amendments. I don't use any chemical fertilizers, but we will plant things that will die later or that we'll cut and throw in and let it kind of compost down. And that's why we have some things like comfrey in there as well. So yes, over time we treated this soil, but we started with the black clay gumbo soil we have. Here we built up in raised beds, and so we started with some pretty good composted soil. Back to the trellis. It's kind of an embarrassing reminder of failure multiple years, but right now we're getting good muscadine, we're starting to see watermelon, we're starting to see peas and beans pop up really, really well. We still have never successfully gotten those hardy kiwis. So because I can't quite get scale right, let's just say this is the trellis, the orchard's here, the play area's here, drainage is here, the road's over here. Then we have really big cottonwood tree right here. Our pond, our main pond, is right here. This road continues so that we can access the back with tree trimmers or go-karts or four-wheelers or the truck if we need to. I've allowed the grass to grow up into what I call sponge meadow here. Sponge meadow because we've added wood chips there a couple of times, so it holds a lot of water, which is the whole goal. The ponds here, there's some natural wicking underground, but we want to hold as much water here as we can. We have irrigation, drip irrigation or sprinklers on pretty much everything south of here, but we don't back here. So we want this to naturally hold as much water as we can. We kind of built up, mounded up some clay a little bit here. So this isn't a road, but it's a high walking area. Then we have another little skinny meadow is what we call it, where we've planted some vitex, we've planted some sunchokes. There's a persimmon tree in here. There's a couple cucumber plants. There is a mulberry tree here that's new. There's another one right back here. And then all down this tree line, we have mulberries that were there when we moved in, and then a bunch of junk trees, but they create some good shade. So you can kind of walk around this trellis and then there's a bit of a trail that goes through here. We have major overhang of tree line trees, some of them pretty, some of them not so pretty. We have a big peach tree right here. We have a small pond here, and then I've connected the ponds by a little man-made creek. We have a pump here that pumps water off a little rock waterfall down into this one, and that water runs all the way here. There's some natural filtration because we have elderberry, blackberry, gooseberries, and just some grasses in here that naturally filters the fish poop from here, which we want up here because we want to plant all around that and get the nutrient density here. We have some crepe myrtles in here. We have a big willow that shades a bunch of the pond. We have a smaller willow here. So that's creating walking areas. We have a pecan here, a pecan here, and a pecan here. So we're creating these walking areas all through here so that that's kind of a fun and enjoyable place to sit, walk. This is very shaded. 10 years ago, there was almost no shade interior, only on these tree lines. We've planted well over 150 trees, 90-something crepe myrtles, which border most of the property. Some of the new mulberries, those are Pakistan mulberries, all the fruit trees, all the crepe myrtles, the willows. We've stocked the pond with fish. We built a dock out on the pond so we can have coffee and hang out. The kids can jump off of it. So that's a really fast 100-mile-an-hour version of what we've done on this property over a decade. None of it happened in perfect order. Almost none of it worked perfectly the very first time, but it's all been thought out. It's all been drawn up. It's all been on grid paper. It's all been, we've asked the garden center. We've asked the gardening experts. We've asked the fruit growing experts. I've bought all the Howard, Garrett, and Neil Sperry books. I've listened to the podcasts about fruit growing and fruit trees and orcharding and gardening and what works in our area, Zone 8, North Texas. But the orchard is probably where I spend the bulk of my time. So remember that 3x7, which has really turned into a 3x9 area. For example, right now today, these 5 fig trees, which are all brown turkey figs, I brought in a gallon freezer bag of figs today for our friends at the office. Last night we had a game night and we had friends over picking hundreds of figs, hundreds of cherry tomatoes that are all growing in the orchard. I'm not even talking about the garden where we do annual stuff. We actually lost all of our apples this year to squirrels and punk raccoons and stuff like that, but we had good apple production. We have great pear production every single year. Figs are a little bit hit or miss. We always have quantity. We don't always have quality. Persimmon is actually out of the orchard, but pomegranate is in the orchard. We get great flower, great production every year. We don't always get fruit. New in the orchard this year is elderberry, jujube, and a couple of other experimental. But when you have that amount of space, you can experiment with 27 primary tree positions and then room to put things all in between. We've added a lot of comfrey this year. It's basically a very leafy bush that has a deep tap root and pulls a lot of nitrogen up from under the ground. We cut it, we drop it, we let it break down and really feed our trees. This is the first year we've done black beans, pinto beans, cowpeas, and sweet potatoes, just in the gaps in the orchard. But we're also creating a walking trail that's kind of shaped like this through the orchard. So you would be able to kind of do that and then go out back up to the pond area. So this is really my baby where I spend a lot of my time. But don't forget that we have 2 ponds, 2 meadows, lots of new fruit trees. There's walkways all around the meadows and under those canopies. The kids love to hang out back here in the shade. And then also don't forget the garden. The garden is where we get the bulk of our tomatoes, our peppers, a lot of zinnias, grapes. Also, we're getting blackberries about that big right now. I'm talking big blackberries. We have raspberries in the garden. We also occasionally will do some squash or butternut or things like that. We have watermelon planted elsewhere. The greenhouse is a big piece of the operation. The pickleball court has been a dream that's come true over the years. The bocce court gets used a lot. We also will just throw cornhole boards in there as well. And then the covered patios and the pool and the pizza oven and the grills. create this dream that I've had for well over a decade. Actually, as a matter of fact, I grew up dreaming about apple trees in the backyard, and we're there. Is everything perfect every year? No. I just told you we lost all of our apples this year. But I planted 3 more trees, so we have 4 apple trees now, so that in future years we'll have more varieties. We actually have about 9 apple trees total now, 4 different varieties, so that there'll be good years and bad years and plentiful years and years where it's lean. And so the journey still continues. I'm still building after over 10 years, but so much of what are on these pieces of paper were just blank pieces of paper a decade, 10, 11, 12 years ago. And you can do this too. Last thing I'll give you on the planning here is I like to think about my property. I like to think about my backyard in zones. So let's say the house is here. That's zone 1, zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, and zone 5. And what really this is what's the distance to or from the house. Zone 1, I'm gonna see, touch, feel most days. Zone 2, I can't see it quite as well, and I'm not going to go back that far quite as often. So that just happens in further and further degrees. So Zone 5 is where I can experiment, I can leave things. Guests don't go back there nearly as much. Now the kids love it. And so you do different things in different places. Patios, pools, chairs, gardens, sport court, greenhouses, fire pits, secondary seating areas, play areas, play fields that don't get used a lot but take up the most space, and then very, very back is absolute experiment. Do what you love that most people are never going to see. Now your zones might be wide, not deep. They might be surrounding your property, your house in the middle, or a barn or a shop or trails or anything like that. But that's how we did it. That's how you can do it. Let me know in the comments what I'm missing on my property. Let me know in the comments what you dream of for your property. And then let me know what suggestions you have for what should we be growing? What should we be doing? What are you trying to do on your property, and how could we help you? Hey folks, we specialize in helping people buy, sell, improve their dream homes on land. And most of that is because it's my passion and many of our team members as well. It's what I've always wanted to do. It's the life I'm getting to live, and man, I love to share it with others as well. So our information is somewhere below this video. Click on it. Reach out to us, or you can just go to toddtremonteteam.com, call, chat, email, contact us, whatever is easiest for you. I love this stuff. I hope you do too. And if there's any way we can help you build your dream and make it a reality, let us know. We would be thrilled to do it.